They were old, overlooked, and forgotten, but they planned the biggest heist London had ever seen. The audacity, the risk, the legacy is on the line. If you want to see how this unlikely gang of pensioners pulled off one of the most daring jewelry robberies in history, like, subscribe, and stick with us till the very end. Brian, you still got it, son? Terry's voice cracked with laughter and disbelief. Brian smirked, adjusting his jacket, the spark in his tired eyes unmistakable. Don't count me out yet, Terry. The pub's dim light flickered over their weathered faces. Legends of a world long gone, yet here they were, plotting one last score. I thought we were done with this, Kenny muttered, eyes sharp. Done. Brian chuckled. We're just getting started. A battered newspaper headline screamed, the biggest jewelry heist in London history. Their handiwork. Age catches up with us all, Brian said, voice low but steady. But I'd rather die swinging than shuffle off to some care home. Terry laughed dryly. Would you want to spend your last days drooling into your lap? Better to go out with a bang than a whimper, Kenny added, shaking his head. Brian's eyes darkened. This isn't just about the money. It's about legacy. About showing these young tech kids that the old school still runs the game. Danny, the youngest, frowned. And what if it all goes wrong? Brian met his gaze. Then at least we went down on our own terms. Brian pulled out a worn folder. Listen up. Terry and Danny, you're on the break-in. Disable the lift. Drop down the shaft. Quiet as ghosts. Kenny and I drill the concrete wall, Basil said quietly. I'm lookout, Jones added. Danny glanced at Basil. Who's Basil, anyway? Brian's jaw tightened. Our secret weapon. We don't talk about Basil. A hush fell. Trust is everything. One weak link, and we're done. The map was spread out like a battlefield. Main door's got a mortise lock, Brian pointed. Behind it, a glass magnetic door with a 4-digit pin. How do we get past that? Danny asked. Basil's got it covered, Brian said. Terry added, the walls, reinforced concrete. 3 holes, each 25 by 45 centimeters. 30 minutes a hole, minimum, Kenny grunted. That drill better be silent. It costs £3,500, Brian said. But it's worth every penny. Alarms? Jones asked, anxious. Basil disables the digital stuff. We handle the rest. Brian raised his glass. One last hurrah, gentlemen. Laughter cracked the tension. Your king's searching for legacy, Brian said. Let's show this digital generation what the old school can do. If this works, we're rich. If it fails, at least we go down fighting. Terry clapped Brian on the back. No one gets left behind. Remember, Basil whispered, no door we can't open. If you're feeling the tension building and can't wait to see how these men pull off the impossible, hit that like button and share this story. And don't forget to subscribe. This heist has only just begun. The old van rattled down the narrow streets, its cargo a heavy load of drills, masks, gloves, and other gear. Kenny groaned as he hauled the massive drill up the stairs. Bloody hell, this thing's heavier than me. Danny chuckled, struggling with a bag of gear. Are you sure you're up for this? Not looking as spry as you used to. Spry or not, Kenny growled, I'm getting that wall down. Brian watched quietly, the weight of the job settling on him. The years pressed on their backs, but the fire in their eyes burned bright. Keep moving, Basil said calmly. We've got a window. No room for mistakes. Inside the darkened building, Terry and Danny moved like shadows. Lifts disabled, Terry whispered, voice barely audible. They dropped down the shaft carefully, every step echoing the pounding in their chests. Too quiet, Danny muttered. Feels like we're walking into a trap. Terry shook his head. Trust the plan. They reached the vault level, the real work about to begin. The drill hummed low, barely louder than a whisper, biting into reinforced concrete. Kenny wiped sweat from his brow. 30 minutes per hole, just like we said. Brian kept watch, heart hammering. "Come on, old friend," he muttered to the drill. The walls were thick, but the drill was steady, relentless. "Almost through," Basil said. Suddenly, a noise echoed from the hallway, a guard's footsteps. "Freeze," Brian hissed. "Stay calm." The guard passed. The men exhaled silently. Jewels sparkled in the low light, emeralds, diamonds, gold chains. Danny's hand trembled as he scooped a handful of gems. "This is it," he whispered. Terry laughed softly. "Not bad for a bunch of pensioners, huh?" "Old hands never lose their touch," Brian said. But beneath the laughter, a shadow lingered, the risk, the betrayal that might yet come. Bags heavy with loot, they retraced their steps. "Quiet," Brian warned. "Police won't know what hit them." They slipped out into the night, hearts pounding with relief and fear. "You think we made it?" Danny asked breathlessly. "Not yet," Brian said. "But we're closer than ever." The first rays of dawn crept through London's foggy skyline, but in the heart of Hatton Garden, a storm was already brewing. Security officers on their morning rounds were stunned. The vault door, the fortress that safeguarded millions in jewelry and precious stones, had been breached, silently, expertly, as if by ghosts. One guard's voice trembled as he radioed in. "There's a hole in the vault wall, big enough to walk through." But no alarms were triggered. His colleagues rushed in, faces pale, eyes darting. The silence was deafening, except for the faint sound of dripping water somewhere in the vault. The news spread like wildfire. Soon the headlines screamed across newspapers and screens: Hatton Garden Heist, the biggest jewelry robbery in London's history. Citizens gawked, police scrambled, and the city held its breath. Who were these criminals? How had they pulled off the impossible, breaking into one of the most secure places in the world without a single alarm? Detectives from the elite flying squad stormed the scene. They moved with precision, knowing the gravity of what they were facing. "Cord one off everything," barked Detective Inspector Collins, his eyes scanning every inch of the vault. Forensic teams swarmed, combing for any evidence: fingerprints, fibers, scraps of drill dust. Specialists knelt on the cold concrete floor, lifting samples carefully. "Look at this," said a technician, holding up a tiny shard of drill tip. This drill was surgical. Professional grade. Collins studied the gathered evidence. This wasn't the work of amateurs. This was meticulous. Calculated. Like a military operation. He motioned to his team. "We're dealing with experts, and old ones, at that." Interviews began immediately. Security guards and nearby workers described shadows moving silently in the dead of night, but no alarms, no forced entry on the outer doors. The police realized the gang had anticipated every obstacle and outsmarted the entire system. Days later, arrests were made. The men, many pensioners, were dragged into custody, faces hardened by time but eyes filled with the shock of capture. Inside the harsh interrogation rooms, officers tried to peel back the layers of the crime. "Who is Basil?" The detective's voice was sharp, demanding answers. The suspects exchanged nervous glances, but all denied knowing anyone by that name. "Basil is the key," Collins insisted. "The mastermind behind this." But the men remained silent, bound by unspoken codes. "Tell us about the drill, the planning," the officer pressed, frustration creeping into his tone. Brian's voice cracked, a mix of defiance and exhaustion. "We planned every detail. But Basil? He's the ghost in this." The tension spilled into the cells. "You're protecting Basil?" Jones spat, eyes burning. "He set us up." "Don't forget, trust is thin in here," Basil murmured, voice low but steady. Brian stepped in, voice heavy with warning. "We either fall together or we fall apart. We made this pact. Remember that." But the seed of doubt had been sown. Friendships strained under pressure, old wounds reopened. The men paced, restless, haunted not just by their crimes but by the question: who could they really trust? Outside the courthouse, the world was watching. Reporters jostled for position, cameras flashing relentlessly as the accused were led in. "Hatton Garden Heist, pensioners or professionals," a headline blared. The public was fascinated. How could a group of aging men pull off such a flawless crime? Experts weighed in on TV, dissecting the heist with a mixture of awe and condemnation. The security breach exposed a flaw in London's defences, a commentator said gravely. This was no random smash and grab. It was a carefully orchestrated operation that will change how we protect our valuables forever. Social media buzzed with speculation, memes, and theories. And amid it all, the gang's legacy was being written, not just as criminals, but as legends of a bygone era. If you're captivated by the unfolding drama and want to uncover the truth behind Basil and the gang's fate, smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe now. The darkest secrets are about to surface, and justice is closer than you think. The courtroom was packed to capacity. Cameras clicked relentlessly, recording every tense moment as the judge entered. A hush fell over the room. Decades of stories, hopes, and mistakes converged here. The prosecutor's voice was cold and unwavering. This was not the act of reckless criminals, but of cold, calculating men who orchestrated one of the most sophisticated heists in our nation's history. He paced deliberately. They planned for years, researched drills, security systems, and vulnerabilities. They were not desperate old men, they were masterminds. The defense rose with a different tale. My clients are men burdened by time, forgotten by society, driven not by greed but by desperation. They are relics, trapped by circumstance and loneliness. Whispers rippled through the gallery. The public was divided. Was this a brilliant gang of thieves or desperate men fighting their obsolescence? Family members watched silently, some ashamed, others supportive. The courtroom became a battlefield of morality, age, and justice. Behind prison walls and sterile hospital rooms, the men faced the consequences of their choices. Brian sat on a narrow bed, staring out at grey concrete, clutching a faded photograph of a woman and a child, family he hadn't seen in years. "I thought this would be my legacy," he murmured to himself, voice thick with regret. One last story to tell. Not just a criminal's tale, but a man's last stand. Terry, battling a failing heart, lay motionless, hooked to machines, his breath shallow. "You can't outrun time," the nurse had warned him earlier. Yet, even as his body failed, his spirit fought to hold on. In quiet moments, the men huddled together, sharing stories of youth, of better days, of lost chances. "It wasn't just about the money," Jones whispered, eyes misting. "It was about proving we still mattered." The name Basil was like a ghost in every conversation, whispered, speculated, but never fully explained. During one interrogation, a detective pressed Brian. "Who is Basil?" "The one who planned the details." Brian's eyes darkened. "We all depended on him. We saw him as the brain, the one who kept the plan tight. But none of us truly knew who he was." Rumors spread. Basil was a shadow handler, an elusive figure, maybe even a police informant or a scapegoat. Inside the group, suspicion gnawed. Was Basil a traitor, or the unseen force that held them together? The mystery remained unsolved, a chilling reminder that in crime, not all players show their faces. Experts convened to dissect the heist's impact. "This event has forced a reckoning," said a leading security analyst. "No system is infallible." Hatton Garden exposed vulnerabilities at the core of London's defences. She continued, "The combination of old-school knowledge and modern technology created the perfect storm. It changed the industry forever." The jewelry world was shaken, many questioning the safety of their vaults, the trustworthiness of their guards. And for the men behind the crime, their story became legend, a cautionary tale about pride, aging, and the hunger for relevance. As the screen darkened, a somber voice spoke. "Some lives are defined not by what they gain, but by what they risk losing." Their story is one of defiance, of men who refused to fade quietly. In the end, justice was served. But legacy is something more complex. Because sometimes the greatest heists aren't the ones that steal jewels, but the ones that steal time itself. If this story of audacity, regret, and mystery resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. More gripping true crime stories are just a click away, and the truth is never as simple as it seems.